So let's talk about what it looks like when you leave an emotionally abusive relationship. We're going to look at the 9 hallmark experiences that most people have when they leave an abusive relationship. That includes narcissistic relationships. So the first thing is emotional turbulence. What is it? So emotional turbulence is you might experience a whirlwind of emotions, including anger, grief, confusion, sadness. Um, this emotional roller coaster can lead to feeling overwhelmed, and it may take time for you to stabilize. You've lived in a world of blame and shame and abuse for so long and isolation that it can take some time to find yourself again. Number two, low self esteem and self doubt. So, narcissistic relationships often involve a significant amount of emotional manipulation and abuse, which more often than not leads to diminished self-esteem and self-worth. And you might constantly doubt yourself, might doubt your decisions and your abilities because they've been undermined for so long. Number three, trauma and anxiety, right? So symptoms of trauma such as anxiety, hypervigilance, flashbacks, nightmares, are often pretty common. And those manifest from the usually from like post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. And it's common, particularly in relationships that have involved severe emotional or physical abuse. Number four, difficulty trusting others. This one is really this one really goes deep because after being in a relationship where your trust is frequently betrayed, you might find it really hard to trust new people or even people who genuinely want to help you. You might be dismissive of people's desire to help. You might think that they have some hidden agenda or something's going on. It can't be right. So, in some ways, you've been trained or brainwashed on some level to believe that no one is there for you, that no one cares about you. And that happens because the emotionally abusive person cannot have you believing that someone else cares or that someone else wants what's best for you. They know the second you realize that, or the second you start to trust other people, is the moment they start to lose their grip, and they absolutely cannot have that happen. So, lack of trust is very normal. It is a very normal experience. And also something you really, really have to work on because it can impact your ability to have healthy relationships in the future with anybody else, including with yourself, because there's so much confusion that you've also been trained to doubt your own intuition. So trust issues are huge. Definitely please work on those. All right. Number five, social isolation. So you may have been isolated from your support systems during the relationship. Building those connections can be challenging because you might find or you might feel some level of shame or embarrassment. You might also feel lonely or disconnected from other people. And that comes back to the trust in number five. So we really, really, really want to work on trust. All right. Number six, identity reconstruction. You might have come out of this narcissistic or emotionally abusive relationship questioning your identity, right? You've probably been told for a very long time who you are, what people think of you, and what people are saying about you. And that may mean you need to actually rediscover who you are as a person, separate from the relationship, separate from its influences, and separate from the abuse. All right. Now, with rebuilding the support groups and trust, so fear of new relationships, and this kind of ties in with trust and isolation and all of the abuse, right? So there can be a significant amount of fear around entering any kind of new relationship, and it's usually driven by worry of repeating the past patterns or encountering another narcissistic individual. So there's no guarantee you won't meet another emotionally abusive or narcissistic person. So what can you do, right? You can work on yourself, you can work on your boundaries, develop a very solid identity, learn who you are without a doubt. Know who you are, learn how to stand very strong in your position and morals and what you want. Become who you are, basically, like become empowered and just know and not give up if if somebody else doesn't like it. That's a whole nother topic. But basically what you want to do is you want to become as unattractive as possible to a narcissist. And I really struggle with saying that because, on some level, in my head, it's like, well, is that victim blaming? Am I saying, like, oh, you were perfectly attractive to a narcissist? That's not what I'm saying. That's not the message that I want you to get from that statement. When I'm saying become as unattractive as possible to this group of people, what are some of the things that they look for? They look for somebody who maybe has had issues in their family. They look for people who have some codependency characteristics. They look for people who may be struggling. Okay, that's typically who a narcissistic person is going to look for or try to target. Okay, they're looking for somebody that they deem helpless or needy or whatever. That's how they are seeing the people that they're attracted to. That does not mean that's who you are. You may have some characteristics. I used to have some codependency characteristics, right? I had to work on myself. I had to get inside of me and say, what am I doing? Like, what is this actually, right? So that's what we need to do. And the only way for us to become unattractive to people with this personality type or people who have those characteristics is to figure out, what about me were they attracted to? Who was I when I started this relationship? How might this person have slipped through the crack? Okay. So this is actually probably a whole entirely different video in itself. But I just want to make it very, very clear that there was nothing you did to deserve emotional abuse. There was nothing that you did to make this person treat you horribly. You were a person who was existing, who was doing life to the best of your abilities with the skills and the knowledge that you had at the time. That is it. So, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to figure out, because that abuse is horrible and it can take years of constantly working on yourself to get yourself to a place where you're so solid that it's a harder, I hate using the word break, but it's like harder to break you. That's where we want you to be. Okay. Or that's at least where I want you to be, because I think that everybody is worthy of having healthy, loving, caring, kind, compassionate, empathetic relationships. And you're no different. Your past things that you've experienced do not mean that you are unworthy. It just means that Sometimes we pick people who seem to be one thing because they do present very well and very charming and very much like they love us and are going to be there and do all these things. And it turns into a different story in the end, right? So, okay, enough of clarifying that. So, back to my original thing, I was talking about fear of new relationships. And one very important part that I really want you to remember is, what was their goal? What was the goal, right? The goal was to isolate you. The goal was to make you feel as though they were the only one, they were the only person that you could count on and that you could trust. All right. Do not allow them to have that power and control over you for the rest of your life. So every time, work on yourself first. Then once you're solid, don't shut out the possibility of any new relationship, because when you do that, you're rejecting love. When you do that, you're rejecting the possibility of having that happy relationship, of being with somebody who deserves you, somebody who you deserve to be with, to be loved with. And the time that we spend like isolating ourselves, just remember who put that there, who told you that you should be alone, who told you that you weren't worthy of love, who instilled in you that nobody loved you, cared about you, would be there for you, who put those things there. And are you going to allow them to continue to be inside of you? Because only you can make that choice. And there is a way out through working on yourself, through learning the difference between what they said and what the actual facts are. All right. So let's wrap it up here. Number 8, feelings of liberation and empowerment. So, on a positive note, you will eventually feel a sense of liberation and empowerment as you start to regain control over your life and you start making decisions for yourself. Okay. So there is hope. You're going to find it through you, because only you can inspire yourself to heal. Nobody can heal you for you. So you've got to do that work. Okay. And finally, number 9, growth and self-discovery. So use this period of time, right, for personal growth and self-discovery. And that can lead to a more resilient version of yourself. And honestly, the fact that you watch the video to the end tells me that that internal voice that you have desires the change. You're ready for it. You're ready for things to be different. You're learning, you're hopeful, you're developing some sense of self-love. Don't stop. Don't stop doing that. Keep learning and keep working on yourself, because that you deserve it. After all the hell you have been through, you deserve love. Okay? That's what I got for you.